Hi, I'm Mein Gertop. In this video, I'm going to give some information about Ielts Academic Task 1, Line Graphs. I hope it will be helpful for you. Task 1 tests your ability to look at visual information in a graph, chart, table or diagram, and identify and report the most important information in your own words. One common way to present visual information is in the form of a line graph. On the question paper, you see a line graph with a title. The instructions for writing your response appear in a box above the graph. There is also a brief description of the information in the line graph in the box. There is usually a key, which helps you to distinguish the lines on the graph and tells you what each line represents. Your job is to look at the graph and select, summarize and describe the most important information. Line graphs typically show trends. A trend is a movement of data in general direction over time. On a line graph, trends are represented by the direction of the lines. Trends can be upward or downward, or they can remain at the same level. An important part of your response is to describe trends and to compare them. The horizontal axis usually involves units of time, days, months, years, and so on. Usually the time represented in the task is in the past, but some graphs include projections about the future. The vertical axis can show almost any kind of data: costs, temperatures, rainfall, amounts of some commodity, population figures, and so on. It is important to examine the graph before you write your answer, and to think about what the graph is telling you. You have to think carefully and choose what information to include so that your response reports only the key information. Tips and tactics. The first step is to look carefully at the information in the line graph. Don't rush through this step. Make sure you understand the graph before you start to write. Underline important words in the question and circle important points on the graph. Identify what key information is being presented in the graph and which important dates. Plan your writing. You can usually divide it into 3 paragraphs: introduction, first main paragraph, and second main paragraph. If the line graph has more than 2 lines, try to arrange the data into 2 or 3 groups. For example, you could divide the data into rising trends and falling trends. Look carefully at the time frame that the graph covers and work out what tenses you need to use: past, present, present perfect or future. Begin with an introductory sentence that describes the graph in general terms, but don't repeat the exact wording of the question. Then describe 1 or 2 general trends shown in the graph. Don't go into details, just report the most important trends you see when you look at the graph.
Task 1. The graph below shows the quantities of goods transported in the UK between 1974 and 2002 by 4 different modes of transport.
The line graph indicates the amounts of goods transported using 4 distinct types of transport in the UK from 1974 to 2002. Overall, it is clearly shown that the amounts of goods transported in the UK by all 4 different types of transport increased over the given period. It is noticeable that there was a significant rise in the quantities of goods transported by road in the UK from 1974 to 2002. In the first main paragraph, select and write about the features that are most important and interesting, for example, rising or falling trends, or where lines intersect, and include relevant data to support the points you make. Focus on the general direction of a trend. Don't write about each change in direction of a line. Don't try to write about all the data in the line graph, and don't include details that are irrelevant to the main trends. Remember, don't try to analyze or explain the information in the graph, or do any calculations, just describe and report it. Keep track of the time. Don't spend more than 20 minutes on task 1. Make sure your handwriting is clear and legible. First and foremost, the most significant change in goods transported in this country on road generally increased from 1974 to 2002. It was about 70 million tons in 1974, rose to its highest point at just under 100 million tons in 2002. This similar increasing trend can be seen on goods transported by water and pipeline. They started just below 40 and about 5 million tons respectively, and rose to just above 60 and above 20 million tons in the last year. Among the three types of transport, goods that were transported on road were the most popular modes of transport. An opposite trend can be observed for the goods transported using rail. In 1974, it was exactly 40 million tons, and declined to about 30 million tons in 1984. It then showed a fluctuation pattern from 1984 to 1995. It rose considerably until the year 2002 and reached its peak at just over 40 million tons.